if you're creating an omnibus for your book series, how do you fit the entire thing into one omnibus? When we are printing our omnibuses, that is going to be a really big book because you have 2, 3, 5 books from your series inside of one printed edition. And that means it's going to be a really big, wide book. And it means that it's going to cost you more to print and more for people to buy it. So how do we make sure it is cost effective for us as authors, cost effective for our readers, and make sure we get all the good stuff in there? Now, we talk about omnibuses a lot, and we always talk about the need for extra content, bonus novellas, things they can't get anywhere else as an incentive for buying your omnibus. As customers who have already read and own your books individually, we want to make sure we're bringing them over to the omnibus as well. So having bonus content is incredibly important for those sales. Having bonus content is incredibly important to bring in new readers as well. So not only do we have a full trilogy, a series of multiple books, we also have that bonus content, those extra novellas, those extra things that we're putting in there. So how then do we make all of this manageable? Can you just take the files you already have, kind of condense it into one and print? Well, you can, but like we said, that's going to lead to a very big, bulky, heavy, costly omnibus, and we don't want that. So the best thing that you can do is actually to shrink down your files a little bit. So if you are designing this in something like Vellum or Atticus, or you're doing it in InDesign, all you have to do is change the font size. It's going to be small. It is going to be smaller than traditional books. And that's just the way omnibuses go. You have to compact it a little bit. So that means you are going to make it a smaller font. Those lines are not going to be quite as spaced out as they were in some of your other novels. You can then change how many pages all of these books are going to be inside of your omnibus. You can make it wider, you can make it thinner. That's in fact how a lot of publishers are getting away with a lower cost of production for novels. I tell this story all the time. I sold the rights to one of my books, and it was one of my longest books that I had ever written, but it was a much thinner, smaller book than all the rest of my novels because that publisher decided they wanted to save a few bucks, and they just shrunk everything down and made it smaller and more condensed. So it looked smaller than all the rest of my novels, even though it had a much higher word count. So you have the ability to judge this a little bit. Now, you don't want to make it so tiny that people can't read it, but you do need to make it small enough so that you can adhere to the page number limit that the book printers have, because they do have page number limits. They do not let you go beyond a certain point. Now, if you do have a ton of books, they're probably not all going to fit in one omnibus. So let's say you have a 10-book series. You're not going to put all 10 books into one omnibus. That's just not practical. It's not something you can physically accommodate. So you're going to have to break those into Omnibus 1 and Omnibus 2 and maybe even Omnibus 3, depending on how you're doing this. But if you have just a normal trilogy, a duology, or a shortened series, it's not too terribly long, you can fit it into one omnibus by shrinking that down. Your graphics might be a little smaller. You might need to even redo some of your graphics or your chapter headers. You want to make sure that there's not a lot of page gaps in between the different chapters. You want to make sure you're utilizing your space wisely, but the overall key is to get that font and the line spacing down. And that's just something people have come to know when it comes to omnibuses. Now, some people don't do it. They have much wider omnibuses, but that means it's a higher printing cost, and it means it's higher rate for people to then buy those books. And we talk a lot about how to price your omnibuses here on the channel. We have videos on that, so make sure you're checking those out in our publishing playlist. But you want to make sure that you're doing it in a way that's going to be the most effective for you to make profit, because omnibuses are way more profitable than individual books in the series, and something that's going to be cost effective for your readers, because buying it in one omnibus is cheaper than buying the individual books. So it's a win-win situation as long as you design it to fit the rules and regulations of the printers. And a lot of this is we're just being beholden to the printers. We have to do their limitations. So you can decide what you want to do. You can decide your profit level. You can decide how big you want these books to be. But if you shrink it down a little bit, you can fit a lot in and it still looks really, really good. So test this out. I want you to go into Vellum or Atticus or InDesign or wherever you're designing this from and create your PDFs and then see how it looks print-wise and size-wise. Is it too big? Is it too small? Is it going to work? Is it too busy looking? Is it hard to read? And if so, you need to adjust and you need to tweak. If it is normal and you want to try to shrink it down even more, feel free. Try it out. See what's going to work best for you. Get a couple of opinions, friends and family, people who read books, and then make your decision and go from there. You're looking to make this the most effective you can for you and for your readers, and sometimes that just takes a little bit of trial and error, and then you can create your cover, submit your files, and you've got your omnibus ready to go. Now, we're answering a lot of questions on omnibuses. People keep writing into us, which I'm so excited to hear from you. You can leave it in the comments, you can DM me, you can email me, but we're here to get those questions answered because omnibuses and being an author can be incredibly profitable if you do it right, and I've had a lot of experience in this space, so I want to make sure we're getting you answers as quickly as possible. Drop your questions down below and follow along for daily videos helping you navigate the world of publishing, from your writing to your publishing to your marketing, to make this your most profitable year ever with the least amount of stress, overwhelm, and time commitment on your content creation. We'll see you in the upcoming episodes.